and welcome to India Reads. I'm Pradeep and we're reading Marcus Aurelius' The Meditations, Book 5. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought in the world to do. Or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? But it's nicer here. Oh, so you were born to feel nice instead of doing things and experiencing them. Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants, the spiders, and the bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best as they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometime. Agreed, but nature has set a limit on that, as it did on eating and drinking, and you're over that limit. You've had more than enough of that, but not of working. You're still below your quota. You don't love yourself enough, or you would love your nature too, and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. Do you have less self-respect for your own nature than the engraver has does for engraving, the dancer for the dance, the miser for the money, or the social climber for the status? When they're really possessed by what they do, they rather stop eating and sleeping than giving up practicing their arts. Is helping others less valuable to you? Not worth your effort? To shrug it off and wipe it clean? Every annoyance and distraction and reach utter stillness. Child's play. If an action or utterance is appropriate, then it is appropriate for you. Don't be put off by other people's comments and criticism. If it's right to say or do it, then it's right for you to say or do it. The others obey their own lead, follow their own impulses, don't be distracted, keep walking. Follow your own nature and follow nature along the road they share. I walked along, I walked through what is natural until the time comes to sink down and rest, to entrust my last breath to the source of my daily breathing, fall onto the source of my father's seat, of my mother's blood, of my nurse's milk, of my daily food and drink through all these years, what sustains my footsteps and the use I make of it, the many uses. No one could ever accuse you of being quick-witted. All right, but there are plenty of other things you can't claim you haven't got in you. Practice the virtues you can show. Honesty, gravity, endurance, austerity, resignation, abstinence, patience, sincerity, moderation, seriousness, high mindedness. Don't you see how much you have to offer beyond excuses like can't, and yet you settle for less? Or is it some inborn condition that makes you whiny and grasping and obsequious, making you complain about your body and curry flavor and show and leaves so you are turbulent, so show and leaves you so turbulent inside? No, you could have broken free a long time back, and then you would have been only a little slow, not so quick on the uptake. And you need to work on that as well. That slowness, not something to be ignored, let alone to prize. Some people, when they do someone a favor, are always looking for a chance to call it in, and some aren't, but they're still aware of it and still regard it as a debt. The others, but others don't even do that. They are like a vine that produces grapes without even looking for anything in return. A horse at the end of the race, a dog when the hunt is over, a bee when its honey is stored, and a human being after helping others. They don't make a fuss about it. They don't go on to someone else. They just go on to something else as the vine goes on to bearing fruit again in season. We should be exactly like that, acting almost unconsciously. Yes, except conscious of it because it's characteristics of social beings that they see themselves as acting socially and expect their neighbors to say it too. That's true, but you're misunderstanding me. You'll wind up like the people I mentioned before, misled by plausible reasoning. But if you make an effort to understand what I'm saying, then you need not worry about neglecting your social duty. The prayer of the Athenians, Zeus rain down on the land and the fields of Athens. Either no prayers at all or one as straightforward as that. Just as you overhear people saying that the doctor prescribed such and such for him, like riding or cold baths or barefoot walking, or say nature prescribed illness for him, or blindness or loss of limb, or whatever, those prescribed means something like ordered so as to further his recovery. So, to be here, what happens to each one of us is ordered, it furthers our destiny. And when we describe things as taking place, we're talking like builders who say that the blocks in a wall or a pyramid take their place in a structure and fit together in a harmonious pattern. For there is a single harmony, just as the world forms a single body comprising of all bodies, so faith forms a single purpose comprising of all purposes. Even complete illiterates acknowledge it when they say something brought on this or that. Brought on, yes, and prescribed it. And in that case, let's accept as we accept what the doctor prescribes. It may or it may not always be pleasant, but we embrace it because we want to get well. Look at the accomplishment of nature's plans in that light. The way you look at your own health and accept what happens, even if it seems hard to accept. Accept it because it leads what it leads to the good health of the world and the well being and prosperity of Zeus himself. Who would have brought this on anyone unless it brought benefit to the world as a whole? No nature would do that, bring something that was not beneficial to what it governed. So there are two reasons to embrace what happens. One is that is happening to you. It was prescribed for you and it pertains to you. The thread that was spun long ago by the oldest cause of all. The other reason is what happens to an individual is a cause of well-being which directs the world or its well-being, its fulfillment of its existence even because the world is damaged. If you cut away anything at all from its continuity and its coherence, not only its parts but its purposes, and that what you're doing when you complain, hacking and destroying, not to feel exasperated or defeated or despondent because your days are not packed with wise and moral actions, but to get back up when you fail, to celebrate behaving like a human being, however imperfectly, and fully embrace the pursuit that you embarked on, and to think and not to think of philosophy as your instructor, but as the sponge in the egg white that relieve ophthalmia, as a soothing ointment, a warm lotion, not showing off your obedience to the logos, but resting on it. Remember, philosophy requires only what your nature already demands. What you have been after is something else again, something unnatural. But what could be preferable? That's exactly how pressure traps us, isn't it? Wouldn't magnanimity be preferable of freedom, honesty, prudence, piety? And is there anything preferable to thought itself, to logic, to understanding? Think of their sure-footedness, their fluent stillness. Things are wrapped in such a veil of mystery that many good philosophers have found it impossible to make sense of them. Even the Stoics have trouble. Any assessment we make is subject to alteration, just as we ourselves. Look closely at them, how impermanent they are, how meaningless things that a pervert can own, a whore or thief. Then look at the way people around you behave. Even the best of them are hard to put up with, not to mention putting up with yourself in such deep darkness, such as a sewer, in the flux of material, of time, of motion, and things moved. I don't know what is there to value or work for. Quite the contrary. We need to comfort ourselves and wait for the dissolution and not get impatient in the meantime, but to take refuge in these two things. Nothing can happen to me that isn't natural. I can keep from doing anything that God and my own spirit don't approve. No one can force me to. What am I doing with my soul? Interrogate yourself to find out what inhabits your so called mind and what kind of soul you have. A child's soul, an adolescent, a woman's, a tyrant's, the soul of a predator, or its prey. Another way to grasp what ordinary people mean by goods. Suppose you took certain things as touchstones of goodness, prudence, self-control, justice, and courage. Say if you understood goods as meaning those, you wouldn't be able to understand that line of so many goods. It wouldn't make sense to you. Whereas if you internalize the conventional meaning, you would be able to follow it perfectly. You would have no trouble seeing the author's meaning and why it was funny, which shows that most people do acknowledge a distinction. Otherwise, we wouldn't recognize the first sense as jarring and reject it automatically, whereas we accept the second, the one referring to wealth and the benefits of celebrity and high living, as amusing and apropos. Now, go a step further. Ask yourself whether we should accept it as goods and should value the things we have to think of to have to have the line make sense. The one whose abundance leaves the owner with no place to shit. I'm made of substance and what animates it, and neither one can stop existing any more than it began to. Every portion of me will be reassigned to another portion of the world, and that in turn would be transformed to another, an infinitum. I was produced through one such transformation, and my parents too, and so on back ad infinitum. The logos and its employment are forces sufficient for themselves for their works. They start from their own beginning and proceed to the appointed end. We call such activities directed from the directness of their course. Nothing pertains to a human being except what defines us as human. No other things can be demanded from us. They aren't proper to human nature, nor is it incomplete without them. It follows that they are not our goal or what helps us reach it, the good. If any of them were proper to us, it would be improper to disdain or resist it, nor would we admire people who show themselves immune to it. If the things themselves were good, it could hardly be good to give them up. But in reality, the more we deny ourselves such things and things like them, uh, or are we deprived of them involuntarily, even the better we become. The things that you think about determine the quality of your mind. The soul takes on the color of your thoughts, colored with the run of thoughts like these. Anywhere that you can lead your life, you can lead a good one. Lives are led at court. The good ones can be things gravitate towards what they were intended for. What things gravitate towards is their goal. A thing's goal is what benefits it. It's good. A rational being's good is unselfishness. What we were, what we were born for. That's nothing new. Remember, lower things for the sake of higher ones, and the higher ones for one another. Things that have consciousness are higher than those that don't, and those with logos still higher. It's crazy to want what is impossible and impossible for the wicked not to do so. Nothing happens to anyone that he cannot endure. Same thing happens to other people, and they weather it unharmed out of sheer obliviousness or because they want to display character. Is wisdom really so much weaker than ignorance and vanity? Things have no hold on the soul. They have no access to it, cannot move it or direct it. It is moved and directed by itself alone. It takes things before it and interprets them as it sees fit. In a sense, people are a proper occupation. Our job is to do them good and put up with them. And when they obstruct our proper tasks, they become irrelevant to us. Like the sun, the wind, the animals, our actions may be impeded by them, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes. The obstacle to our acting, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Honor that which is greatest in the world, that on whose business all things are employed and by whom they are governed. And honor what is greatest in yourself, the part that shares in its nature with that power. All things in you as well are employed by its business, and your life is governed by it. If it does not harm that community, it does not harm the members. When you think you've been injured, apply the rule. If the community is not injured by it, neither am I. And if it is, anger is not the answer. Show the offender where he went wrong. Keep in mind how fast things pass by and are gone. Those that are now and those that will come. Existence flows past by us like a river. The what is in constant flux. The why has a thousand variations. Nothing is stable, not even what's right here. The infinity of the past and the future gapes before us, a chasm whose depths we cannot see. Or it would take an idiot to feel self-importance or distress, or any indignation either, as if things that irritate us lasted. Remember, matter how tiny of your share of it, time how brief and fleeting your allotment of it, faith how small a role you play in it. So other people hurt me, that's their problem. Their character and actions are not mine. What is done to me is ordained by nature. What I do by my own. The mind is the ruler of the soul. It should remain unstirred by agitations of the flesh, gentle and violent ones alike, not mingling with them, but fencing off and keeping those feelings in place. When they make their own way into your thoughts through a sympathetic link between the mind and body, do not try to resist the sensation. The sensation is natural, but don't let the mind start in with judgments, calling it good or bad. To live with the gods and to do that is to show them that your soul accepts what is given and does what the spirit requires. The spirit God gave each of us to lead and guide a fragment of himself, which is our mind, our logos. Don't be irritated by people's smell or bad breath. What is the point? With that mouth, with those armpits, they're going to produce that odor. But but they have a brain. Can't they figure it out? Can't they recognize the problem? So you have a brain as well. Good for you. Then use your logic to awaken this. Show him, make him realize it. If he will listen, then you would have solved their problem without anger. Neither player, king, nor prostitute. You can live here as long as you expect to live there. You can live here as long as you expect to live there. And if they won't let you, you can depart life now and forfeit nothing. If the smoke makes me cough, I can leave. What's so hard about it? Until things reach that point, I'm free. No one can keep me from doing what I want. And I want what is proper to rational beings living together. The world's intelligence is not selfish. It created lower things for the sake of higher ones and attuned the higher ones to one another. Look how it subordinates, how it corrects, how it assigns each thing what each deserves, and brings the better things into alignment. How have you behaved to the gods, to your parents, to your siblings, to your wife, to your children, to your teachers, to your nurses, to your friends, to your relatives, and to your slaves? How they all had you from nothing, wrong and unworthy, either word or deed. Have they all had from you nothing wrong and unworthy, either word or deed? Consider all that you've gone through, all that you've survived, and the story of a life is done, your assignment complete. How many good things have you seen? How much pain and pleasure have you resisted? How many honors have you declined? How many unkind people have you been kind to? Why do souls unskilled and untrained disturb the soul with skill and understanding? And why, and which is that? The one who knows the beginning and the end and knows the logos that runs through the things, and that assigns to all a place, each in its allotted span throughout the whole of time. And soon you'll be ashes or bones, a mere name at most. And even that is just a sound and echo. The things we want in life are empty, stale, and trivial. Dogs snarling at each other, quarreling children laughing and then bursting into tears a moment later. Trust, shame, justice, truth, gone from the earth and only found in heaven. Why are you still here? Sensory objects are shifting and unstable. Our senses dim and easily deceived. The soul itself is a decoction of the blood. Fame in a world like this is worthless. And so, wait for it patiently. Annihilation or metamorphosis. And until that time comes, what? Honor and revere the gods. Treat human beings as they deserve. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Remember, nothing comes belongs to you but your flesh and blood, and nothing else is under your control. You can lead an untroubled life provided you can grow, you can think and act systematically. Two characteristics shared by the gods and men, and even the rational creature. Not to let others hold you back. Locate the goodness in thinking and do the right thing and limit your desires to that. If this evil is not my doing, nor the result of it, and the community is not endangered, why should it bother me? Where is the danger for the community? Not to be overwhelmed by what you imagine, but do what you can and should. And if suffer in essentials, not to treat this as defeat. Like the old man asking for the orphan's toy on the way out, even though he knew that's all it was, like that. Up on a platform, have you forgotten what's what? I know, but it was important to them. And so you've been an idiot as well. I was once a fortunate man, but at some point fortune abandoned me. But true fortune is what you make of yourself. Good fortune, good character, good intentions, and good actions. So we've come to the end of book five. I'm doing this recording for the second time because I was not able to save the earlier recording, and so it was interesting. I have one thing to tell is that the reason I took up reading meditations was when I read the first paragraph of book five. I had read it somewhere, and it really captivated me. This interplay of Marcus Aurelius' mind with his body, where the body doesn't want to get up, it's just feeling lazy, I want to sleep, I want to spend some time more in bed, and the mind says that, so you want to stay because the bed feels nice instead of doing things and experiencing them. Don't you see the plants, the birds, the bees, and all the animals going about doing what nature has had ordained for them? Don't you want to do that? Don't you want to be uh, true to your own nature? Or do you want to just lie down in bed and not do anything? But then the body says, but I need my rest, don't I? And then the mind says, yes, you do need your rest, like you need to eat, and like you need to work, but you've overdone your eating, and you've less done you're not up to your quota in eating and sleeping, but you're up to your quota, you're more than your quota, you've exceeded your quota of sleep. So get up and get on with life. So this is, I think, the first lesson of book 5, where he's motivating himself that every morning, get up with a sense of purpose, get up knowing that you have to do what nature has ordained you to do, and be conscious of the purpose of your life every day, every morning when you get up. And that's, I think, one of the most important lessons. And like I said, I'd read this somewhere, I'd heard about this in one of the YouTube videos, and that's what has actually motivated me to read Meditations. So this is one of the first lessons that book 5 has. The second lesson is about doing good. So he says that when you do good, um, don't keep asserting it. Don't consider it as a debt that the other person owes you back, or even hold it in your mind that don't account for it, like the wine which produces the most succulent and uh, fresh grape, and then it goes on with life and produces grapes again the next season. Just move on with your life. Don't hold yourself, don't account every good that you do and expect something in return. That kind of is the second part of it. And uh, uh, then there are then there are a few lessons in this book which are recurring from the past few books. The importance of being rational in everything that you do. Be conscious of everything that you do. Every single action of yours, let it start from a rational place. Do not get swayed by what others think of you. Don't try to live for others opinions. Live for your opinions.